Okay, part of the collection then are three what would be called pharmacy prescription registers. I don't know why they're called that, but they were. And what pharmacists did in the days of yore is they would file their prescriptions a number of ways. Number one, they'd put a hole in the middle of them and string them on a wire, and that was called a bung of prescriptions. Or they would acquire a big fat book of some kind, and sometimes it was a hotel registration book that people signed when they went into the hotel, and when it was filled up, the hotels would either give the book or pharmacists would buy it, and then they would glue their prescriptions into the book. Now, I don't know if this is a hotel register or a book that was bought for this purpose, but they glued the prescriptions in, and if you're getting the idea that it would have been difficult to refer to them for a refill, it probably was. So the pharmacist had to memorize or remember approximately where they were, or maybe there's some system to this that I've never been able to spot. It's definitely not a system that files them by doctor. It's definitely not a system that files them by patient, so it's probably a system that filed them by the order in which they were filled. These are prescriptions in this book. I have three such books. This one goes back to the 1880s, and some of these are the prescriptions that were written by physicians. Theodore, look at this one, will you? This one says Theodore Green and Son, prescription druggists, 500 Divisadero Street, corner of Fell, San Francisco. Remember we mentioned Franklin. Here's a prescription that was written on a pad he provided to the prescriber, or maybe this is from his pharmacy. I don't really know where this one came from, because one of his students, I do know now. Okay guys, Providence time, okay? There's a letter attached to this that says that this particular book prescription file came from Franklin Green. Now, Franklin Green, I told you earlier, had a pharmacy. He was a coroner for the city of San Francisco. He was a beloved instructor. People just loved the guy. And he would walk to school every day, okay? And basically, this is a prescription file, and it says book number 2, dating from 1890 to 1891, of the prescriptions he filled in his pharmacy. Notable is the fact that most of them are compounded, okay? That doesn't mean that he filled each prescription ad hoc. It means that sometimes these were formulas that he had already put together and had available in large quantity, so that when somebody called for this mixture, he need only measure out an amount of it. But in many cases, in fact, probably the majority of them, it was a novel prescription. That is, one that had been specifically devised by a physician for that patient. And the quantities of ingredients that had to be mixed together, because these are all compounded prescriptions, would vary. So you will find in here the symbols that were used by pharmacists in those days. That's a Z, funny looking Z for the symbol of a dram, something like a little strange looking Z with a quick on top, a little additional Z on top of it means an ounce. And this one is calling for potassium citrate, XL, what is it, 40 grains, XLV, 45 grains, 45, XLV, 45 grains, spirit of something, ether nitrate, spiritus of ether nitrate, 1 dram. A dram is roughly 3.8 cc. Syrup of Iranti means orange syrup, and then 1 ounce, and then elixir of ammonium acetate, I guess, and odd means QS, added sufficient amount to make a total of 2 ounces. Anyway, so this is the way they handled them, and you will see some interesting prescriptions in here. I think this may well be the book in which there's a female physician that refers to herself as Mrs. Davila, MD. This may be the book in which I saw that happening. But so this is from Frank Green's pharmacy, and you get an idea that some of these physicians had their blanks pre-filled out. Other ones used blanks that were provided to them by Theodore Green. Franklin Green, why would he call himself? Oh, he's Franklin T. Green was his name. Yeah. Anyway, so I have 3 of those. This is the oldest, 1880 to 1881. The next one is 1926, and then I think the youngest one is 1938. But there are 3 of them in all. Okay? So now let's just move on to some pictures. We've talked about Franklin Green a lot. This is Franklin Green in later age. He was not only a member of the faculty, he was for a time the dean of the school for quite a few years. I would guess maybe 8 or 10, maybe more. I've never traced it. And this is a dusty old picture, so I hope the picture of him comes through. But you will see him lots in the class pictures that we'll see in a minute. And this is going to be bounce around, okay? This is the obituary notice for William Searby, who died in 1909, I think of cancer, I'm not quite certain. He lived on Stanton Street, just down the hill. His house is still there. I visited it one day. He is remarkable for the fact that he governed the school at a period of time of great change. He became dean shortly after we came to the Hill here, and he stayed that way. These are the rules that he established for, I won't hold them up long enough for you to read them, but these are the rules that he established for performance of the students while in the facilities. It says, don't do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. The one I like the most is the one about about cuspidors, number 5. Cuspidors are provided for the use of those who had the misfortune to need them. He was quite a guy, not a judgmental bone in his body. But the rules are quite interesting. If you have time, read them. Then we have some class pictures. Again, these are spotty and they're not organized. But again, this is the class of 1907. Fortunately, whoever had this picture put the names of the people on it. I know who some of them are. Franklin Green, right there. William Searby, right there. Nish, right here. And I don't remember who those guys are. And then the class. Most of them look pretty old to me, but maybe not. Maybe it's just the fact that I know that they're of that era, and so they got to be old guys, but they're not. I mean, but in any event, nice glossy robes that they're wearing. And the classes you get, what is about 40, maybe 30. And there's some women in the class, but there have been women in the class from the very first class we graduated. I can easily spot 2, and there maybe are more. In my class of 75, there were 7 females, and we hit equity at around 1975. So that's one class picture. Another class picture of the class of, which one is this? 1903. Again, women, you will spot women in them, on more than just 2 or 3 this time, quite a few. Again, we can spot the faculty. Searby there, Franklin Green here. It's nice to see Franklin as he ages well, I think. He starts off a very dashing, handsome-looking guy. Franklin Green's the guy that used to carry 2 watches. And I think it was just part of the character of the man. Because when the freshmen would inevitably ask, Dr. Green, why do you carry 2 watches? His answer would be, I'm a very busy man. I need more time. And that was his response to it. So that was Franklin Green. I've never seen anything Searby said that was particularly funny. Okay, another class here. Again, women you'll see present in the class. This is the class of 1898. And somewhere here we should see a younger Searby, but I haven't spotted him yet. But he was dean of the college at this time. And I guess he's not there. But in any event, you can see spotty women again, 2 or 3, not a whole lot. But what a wonderful picture. I mean, I'm so happy we have these. We obviously don't do that kind of a picture anymore because the classes are so big. We shoot a picture, but you're one of... Have I done this one already?
I think so too.
Yeah, I did this one. Okay, but you're one of 120 people. Another class picture, class of what? 1900. We have another picture of this class of them sitting on the steps. But again, William Searby. Again, I don't know who that guy is. Franklin Green, dashing mustache, handlebar mustache right there. And other people who are obviously faculty in the center, and then the people around the periphery. The guy that did this was Vaughn and Keith Studios in 14 Grant Avenue in downtown San Francisco. Again, a wonderful picture. Picture of Troy C. Daniels. I've never quite liked this picture. It looks like Troy C. Daniels post-mortem. The colors in it are really muted, more than that. But the nice part of it is on the back, it says who donated it, and it was donated by Chauncey Leake, who was a good friend of Troy C. Daniels. They really were close, and they really admired each other, and they should. Chauncey was a great guy. Troy C. Daniels was a magnificent leader. I came across this one this morning, and I think I've already shown it, but we'll do it again because Susie, this is Schmidt, C.L.A. Schmidt. Pictures of him. You said you wanted a Hall of Deans picture. So this is a picture of C.L.A. Schmidt. And I came across this one. Also, this is Dean Edward Wheelock Runyon. He was our second dean. He followed Emlyn Painter, and he was dean for 10 or 12 years. And he was followed by William Searby, I think. I think he was followed by Searby. But in any event, so we have a nice picture of him. We have a very nice portrait of Searby. Can you see it from where you are? Of Searby right here.
Yeah.
It's very fragile because it has no backing to it, and in the last 10 years it has these tears have appeared. So it's an acid wash paper, and so therefore it's gray. I'm certain that it was whiter when it was first done, but it's beginning to disintegrate, and a new crack has appeared here. I took a picture before any of these cracks had appeared, so I do have a high-res, I think it's high-res picture of it. I sent it to you the other day, Susie. Would you like me to send you a copy of that high-res picture of it? And we will keep this temporarily, but it's my understanding you'll take it too. Is that correct? Okay, good. And then these are just miscellaneous pictures shot in the 50s and 60s, some of whom are of people who have become important. They were not so important at that time. This is a picture of Bill Smith, one of the founders of our clinical pharmacy program, in a laboratory. I don't know who he's with. These pictures are destroyed because they were one time stored in my office. And unfortunately, I was below Marty Shetler, who had a sink that was constantly overflowing and overflowed into my room below and dripped down on a lot of stuff, including these pictures. So that's what did that corner stuff to them. Then we have a picture here of a guy whose name I don't remember, but I could if I really gave my thought to it, and Dick Penna, Richard Penna, class of 1958, who went off to do marvelous things and eventually got the Distinguished Alumnus Award here and became a Remington medalist about 10 years ago. He died last summertime, my dearest friend. Here's Dick Penna again, teaching in a class. This is the compounding class, dispensing class he called it, and he was teaching sterile technique here. That's why you'll see a pressure cooker there. Sterile technique for ophthalmic solutions. We have in this picture Tom Dunphy, who, class of 1960 some odd, who eventually became a member of our faculty, died about 20 years ago. And you see him in pharmacy compounding laboratory. He's doing some fluid extracts. Fluid extracts were the way that certain drugs were made available to patients at the turn of the century and shortly thereafter. There were tinctures and there were fluid extracts. And he was learning how to take raw drugs and prepare fluid extracts or liquid dosages of them. I don't know who this guy is, but this is the way student nurses here used to look when we had an undergraduate nurse program. We don't have that anymore. It's a graduate program. But they wore these caps which looked like, I always thought they were ugly, but they, not the nurses, but the caps that looked like the caps that you wear at graduation. They had that square shape and so on. And they wore it, this was a very light blue color uniform they wore. Then we have another important person in pharmacy. This is Dr. Paul W. Lawfalm. Graduated in 1960 some odd. Here he's in looks like a chemistry laboratory. This is the guy that went on to do marvelous things. Received the Remington Medal, the Distinguished Alumnus Award, the Daniel B. Smith Medal. Was the first person in the world to take clinical pharmacy out of the institutional practice and apply it to a community pharmacy, which he still does today. He's still practicing, although he's getting ready to retire. But there he is as a 20-some-odd-year-old guy. More of Paul, and these are more of the same pictures, and they're only here because these are ones that we won't keep here. We'll turn them over to you immediately if you want them, or we'll discard them. They're Polina, because they're duplicates of what we have, and if they're in bad shape, they're in worse bad shape than the ones we will keep temporarily. And then another, if I haven't done this already, a picture of Dean Carl C.L.A. Schmidt, if I haven't done that one already. But this is the picture that Susie fell in love with the other day. And it's a panoramic picture of the entire student body of the School of Pharmacy. And I forget the year. I have it here. I don't want to pull it open too far because it's beginning to the emulsion is beginning to crack. But it says here this is the student body of 1925. That's the entire student body on the steps of the pharmacy building. And you'll see in it the usual characters, the faculty. I think Franklin Green is probably in this picture. I haven't looked at it. I won't waste the time to look at it right now. But also we have here a page that describes who's in the picture, sent to us by the alumnus who donated it, and something else here. Oh, for some reason he sent a copy of World War II V mail, which was the mail that people used when they wrote servicemen. And he has sort of a panoramic picture of the campus at that time too. He says affiliated colleges, tennis court, co-op in back, pharmacy, dental building, medical building, and one or two of the buildings were used as a museum. That's true. It was still used when I was here. And Ishi was in one of those buildings at one point. This is something that you may find very interesting. I don't know. It's the Park Davis about 50 years ago commissioned something called the History of Pharmacy in Pictures. They really commissioned it as History of Medicine in Pictures, but somewhere along the line somebody said, well, you know, we apply to some of those. Why don't you do one for us as well? So what the result was a series of very nice lithographs. Susie, can you help me hold this one? This is my favorite picture because I thought it was so super corny when it came out. It shows a young pharmacist looking truly dedicated, and this other guy, older mentor with and I always think about it like, don't worry, son, we all get gas every now and then, or such things as that. I had a contest on what was the guy saying to this guy, and the students supplied to answer. I don't remember what they said, but I had put this picture out there then. So anyway, that's really not part of the history. That's just one that I put in there. But what you will find here is all sorts of pictures.
You're not doing a very good job.
I'm sorry, it's my fault.
I got it.
Okay, what is here are, I'll just pull it out of the envelope, are some, contemporary things, and I think sooner or later they're going to go back in history. So we have contemporary. By contemporary I mean at the time they did this, which was like the 1950s or 60s. These are considered quite valuable. And then you go back in time to Stanislaus Limosin, Pharmacal inventor, about 1886, and there's a whole series of those things going back to the revolutionary times, ultimately to medieval times, okay, and then back to even biblical times, as I recall. Yeah, there we go. That's Egyptian times and so on. So it's a complete collection with, I think, a description on this final page of what's here, of the Park Davis pictures, donated by an alumnus some time ago, and they're actually in pretty good shape. It's actually a quite valuable collection now. It's become a collector's item. As you can see, we have over there one picture that was taken not out of this, it's on the floor. I probably can't see it. It's kind of faded. It's one picture taken from the collection, not this one.